Good evening and welcome to the show, What Would Love Do? Glad you guys are here with us today. I hope you enjoyed us last week. I know I've been enjoying it the past few weeks. I am one shy this week. If y'all notice, my wife isn't with me. She's a little under the weather, so keep her in your thoughts. But anyway, just glad to be here. And last week, my dad put me on the spot a little bit. Not really. I mean, I guess I'm used to your questions and chatting like we did, but we talked a little bit about, you wanted us to kind of give a testimony of how the information we've been getting has changed the way we look at our children and
Right.
view parenting. And so I kind of wanted to turn around and ask you guys the same question, but in reference to what Dr. Jones talked about this morning, he talked a little bit about praise and worship and how it's a little backwards today about, most people depict God as requiring all kinds of praise and, wanting his children to feel like we're only out to please him and build him up and glorify him. And anything that we do good is because of him. I do something bad, it's my fault. I do something good, it's his fault. So I'm thankful that we don't have that view anymore. And we're getting a lot of background noise. I'm going to see if I can fix that. 1 second.
I don't know if it's coming over coming out on that end, but it's kind of distracting on this end. So much better. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm what I was saying. I'm thankful that we don't have that view of God anymore, and that I don't treat my children that way. If anything, I'm pouring out praise towards my children all day long. Just proud of them for being who they are, mistakes and all. My kids make mistakes. I make mistakes, but I'm just so proud, so overjoyed to be around my children. And all day long, my daughter, I don't know if after watching T-Bog, I'm sure we heard enough about poop and those kind of discussions, but my little girl, almost every day when I come home, if it's early enough and they're still up, and they haven't gone to bed yet, she comes running up to me, Daddy, I poo-pooed in the potty like a big girl. She's so proud of that. And I get excited just because, I'm just proud of her no matter what it is she does. I'm proud, and I praise her all day long. And I don't say, well, you did that because I taught you how, and I gave you that ability to do that. And I guess I don't even know how I want to start off this portion of the conversation, but you guys, as you got into a bond called husband and wife and started raising a family, having children, and of course, you had kids already, but you began to raise your children in the state you were in when you got married, which was, at that point, was a religious state.
Oh yeah.
And you had a different view of your children than you do now. You had a different philosophy in raising your kids than you do now. And I guess my question posed to you is, how has that changed? What would you say going from then until now?
Well, I'd like to start off. I know she's eager to jump in here, but I'm going to jump in ahead of her right quick. Because, we talked about some things last week, and I made some statements, and I want to kind of go back and start there with statements I made last week, because I want to point the finger a little bit more at myself, because, even though, from the beginning, as far as I'm concerned, we've had a wonderful marriage. Now, to say that there haven't been times that we've gone through, even say that we could have survived without going the direction that we've gone, might be a stretch. I think we would have, but the question would be, what would we have? And, not to make
A lot of people exist together. We talk about quality in relationship.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the quality is so much better because of the truth that we have learned and the
Yeah.
direction that we are going.
Everything that love is, and we were having a conversation before camera about the, the definitions. You can go to any church today, any denomination, it doesn't matter what. If you bring up the issue of love, naturally people are going to say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we believe in love. I mean, God is love," and most of them would probably even go so far as to say, "We love everyone." Yeah, some may not. I don't know, but the question is not really so much do we say we love and do we feel like that we love, but the question should be what is that by definition? Are we actually talking about love as defined uh, and attributed to God Himself, the way He loves? And that was really what was dealt with this morning. And we'll get to that a little later because I would like to talk about that. But statements I made last week concerning the way that we've raised our children. Um, our goal always has been since we've been together. Uh, it's to um, do everything right. I mean, we've wanted to please God. We've uh, those that been those that uh, felt like we knew God, uh, knew what He expected, what He required. Uh, we were believers in the Bible, beginning to end, the inerrant Word of God, like so many others. My, how it's changed. But we'll save that for another time, uh, other than just to say that where that got us or where that was taking us is obviously not good. Uh, we, but let me, like I say, let me just say from my standpoint, um, I was taught the way I understood things, and it's easy to get this position from the Bible, even the New Testament. Man is the head of the woman. She's to submit to him as Christ does the church. I'm just quoting English text here, and I know that there's many denominations that take their position here, and I took it very seriously. I made all the decisions and I was responsible for the discipline of the children. And I took that seriously, but unfortunately, uh, I think I took it with keeping in mind my viewpoint of God, and that's the way I looked at Him. Basically, I mean, I don't know. I hesitate to say this, but I think it's good to admit it. I think that there's a lot of people that are here. I don't think I was alone in more or less having this picture of God as, uh, well, I won't describe him. I don't know. I think a lot of people have the picture of him. He's this big guy with a beard and mean looking, but he's got this big stick to keep his kids in line with. And I felt like I was never out of his eye. You know, he'd never leave me nor forsake me, but, he was watching every move I made so that when I made a mistake, he could whack me real good. That's the position I took. That's the mindset I had toward raising my children. And I loved them. There's no doubt I love you and each one of my kids very much. I cared about you. And, I tried to express that the best way I could. But, um, it was still, I'll use this term, most people are probably familiar with it. It was a legalistic idea. I was the dad, I had a responsibility, and it was to make you kids mine. That was my job. Now, fortunately, you had a mom that was at least free to love you. being as I took that responsibility upon myself, care for uh, concern about everything that came your way. And so, there's so many things that are involved in this, and I want to get to answer your question, how it's changed, because everything about it has changed. Uh, Mostly my viewpoint, and but let me just bring out this one other thing, this one other aspect. We were those who, believed that Jesus took stripes. He did certain things to basically purchase our healing or to provide for our healing. And therefore, we just needed to trust God when we were sick or when we had, anything in a physical way. Our first order of business was to pray and expect some kind of healing. And we were, I would say, dogmatic. Some let their children die. We weren't totally against. We uh, we always got let's get some medicine. And to me, when I look back and I look at the position that I really had, in reality, it was more of a superstition than it was a true position. Now, that's not to say that we're against healing. We don't believe that healing takes place, even in a natural way at times. You have natural tendencies to fight off certain things. But we can see now what God has provided in a much clearer way. We can see that in the medical field, He's given much to men, to mankind, in order for Him to care for one another. And so we enjoy the benefits of that. But where I would have to say the biggest change, the biggest difference between uh, then and now, and it has been a process. It's something that has taken place over time and is still taking place. And it's one of my greatest thankfulnesses that I have in my life. I mean, that I've been given this opportunity to understand things more clearly and be more, whether it be as a husband, whether it be as a dad, and more specifically these days as a grandparent, because our days of child raising are getting close to the end, not quite over. The things that you said pretty much fall right into the category of what I would say. I look at my children as a gift, as they're a gift to me in the sense that and you, each one of you.
Well, this is the part I was really wanting to get to, when you get to praise me a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're the only one, right here at the moment. So, uh, but no, I feel this way for each of my children, and of course, it goes way beyond this. It's I feel this way about people in general, and that's the general idea. It causes us to be more effective and more beneficial toward everyone we meet, really, in the long run. But to deal specifically with children, there's been a lot in the past that was, in my estimation, a shove in the wrong direction, especially from me. I pushed you away probably more than I did draw you to me. And, God draws us to Himself, but He doesn't do it with a stick. He doesn't whip us into submission and mold us into a certain, He's not a cookie cutter. thank God, not expecting us to be alike as some try to propose. It's gifted. And when I can look at it, and then check out the gifting that they have and the diversity and encourage that. And like you said, praise that, just appreciate it, number one. And then secondly, acknowledge the fact that I'm very proud. I'm very thankful. Uh, I'll do anything I can to promote that in their lives. And go ahead and bring up one other thing at some point. This is a good time. Just, let me make sure I get the name right because not the great names, but Jim Palmer, he was a couple of weeks ago on the program. There was something that he said that I really did appreciate, and it's I think it's really love when we talk about what it enables us to look at one another as perfected human beings, you know. And there are imperfections, of course. We're not ignoring that fact or acting like that's not the case, but we don't look at each other in that regard. And I think Paul had something to say about that. Uh, was no longer do we look at one another and to use King James terminology, I think after the flesh, we don't see or this is what love does. It doesn't focus on the flaws and the problems. It sees the finished product. It sees what God sees. Something that, as you were pointing out, is worthy. And this these realities that we're talking about have so much effect on us that it even affects how many songs have we sung in the past that we no longer sing because the words just kind of hang up. We trip over the words,
All of them.
Yeah. Well, one we were talking about recently, and we're thinking, if we changed it to this, then we could sing it. And it was one that says, you are worthy, and we just changed the term instead of how does it go?
Instead of he is worthy,
Worthy is the lamb.
Worthy is the man.
Yeah, worthy is the man. And that's what we need to realize. I'm worthy. You're worthy. She's worthy. And that's God's viewpoint. We're not assuming anything here.
Yeah.
We're not taking anything for ourselves. We're beginning to see like He sees. And once we see one another in that way, then it changes everything. So, what has changed about the way that I would do this if I had to do it again, or the way I will do it from here on out? It's the way I view my children, their children. And it's real. I'm not faking it. I'm not looking at it. I wasn't looking at Hannah this morning when she was told it, saying, "Oh, how He loves me." I was 2 years old, 3 years old. I wasn't looking at her like, oh, I'm trying to look at you like you're just this beautiful child. It's a beautiful child I was looking, and it just thrilled me to hear her say, "Oh, He loves me." She's so bright. Talked out.
Well, I want you to speak to the same thing, but I want to say from my viewpoint, especially now that I'm older, I think I was old enough when we started getting the information that we have now, and our minds started to change. I was old enough to know where we were in our minds in a religious state and see the progression of us coming out of this. And I think it was an easy process for me. I guess being that I was still young enough to where I wasn't so tuned into what we were doing then, 15 years ago. So it was a pretty simple process for me, but for for folks like you, which is going to be the majority of religious folks, the ones that have been in it for most of their lives, um, it might not have been quite as easy. But I'm still amazed at the process that we've gone through and where y'all stand today. You know, remembering back to where you were wonderful parents. You always have been. I've never felt like I was unloved. I never felt like I was not tended to or taken care of. Never felt that way. I never felt like, oh, my parents are just the worst parents in the world. I've always thought of you as being
Thank
great.
God for that.
But, you know, you can take a good thing and make it so much better. And I feel like that's what has happened. Good parents, maybe not everything that you did was good, but you were still good parents. But that has progressed much over the years, and I just enjoy listening to this because, you know, a lot of people, when confronted with a change in philosophy, a change in, you know, when their religion is confronted, whether they can see the error of it or not, pride jumps in. Mm-hmm. And they automatically go to the defense where they didn't make any mistakes in their upbringing. You know, what this ain't good enough for you was good enough for me when I was raised, or good enough for my dad when he was raising me. I don't think I ever saw that type of mindset come out of either one of them. It was just, you know, struggles at times, but nothing like that. And it was just an ongoing process, and still is. And when I see you interact with, I think you're really only raising 2 kids at the present. You've gone from 12 and you're down to 2. But I see you relate to your grandchildren, and it's awesome. You know, I'm extremely thankful that my kids have grandparents that, you know, that truly care. And like this morning, it was sweet. It was awesome to see, you know, my daughter, you holding her and her singing with you, and it was beautiful. And that's the way it always is. I don't know, I think sometimes, you know, I want to point out that you're an extremely humble man. You know, you're willing to sit here and say, yeah, I made all these mistakes, and here's what they are. You even outline them. I did this wrong, and I did that wrong, and I did this wrong. But it's just as important for us to talk about the good things, you know.
Sure.
And I think sometimes we get caught up in talking about the negatives, that we feel negative about ourselves. Now, I don't want to say it's self-pity. It's more like, I can't believe I did that, and we get stuck in that rut. But we're not doing that anymore. You know, I mean, we're moving forward. We're moving forward, and it's still is a challenging process. You know, I've gone through some recent struggles, and areas where I'm struggling to move forward. But I'm just thankful that we're in this process. And so I want to turn it over to you. How do you feel about this process and the direction we're headed, and, you know, this man you're sitting beside? And
Well, I just mainly want to talk about the struggle. You know, in raising kids, with each child, I felt the weight of the responsibility of another life, you know, and the struggles of one thing that I've never enjoyed was spanking a kid. It was not my thing. And so whenever you tended to the discipline, I was all for that, you know, because that was just not what I wanted to do. But as you've already pointed out, religion kind of mandated that from us.
Yeah.
You know, and there was times that I did yield, but I always felt bad inside. I didn't feel like I was doing a good thing, you know. And so as we have progressed.
You quenched the spirit.
Yeah, right.
Now we know. We didn't know then.
One thing, though, I did have the privilege of homeschooling the kids. And I think that gave me a little bit of an advantage even with the religious bondage I was in that I could see teaching the kids and giving them understanding required less on the discipline end of the thing, less punishment, I should say, because, and you even experienced this too, that the more we talked to the kids and brought them understanding, it seemed like they did better.
Yeah.
And so as years went on, we both became more talkers than we were on the spanking end of it. But to come into understanding ourselves that the spanking was never necessary was just a load off of us, and it was easy to yield to what freed us, because it was a struggle to do in the first place.
Right.
And I think that as you down to the giftings in our children, instead of trying to squeeze them into a particular mode, it's awesome to see how different they all are and how their giftings are so different. And it's just a blessing to watch them and to go into their different giftings. And you talk about, how we used to just pray for them and, you'll be all right, that sort of thing. And now we have several of them that are in college to get into, the ministry of healing people.
The medical field.
Yeah, in medicine, though. The truth of it, the reality. And so, it's a huge difference of pretending, struggling, just going from day to day, trying to do what's right, instead of just yielding and growing into a righteousness. Now I'm looking forward to my children becoming medically accomplished and me going to them instead of.
And we're approaching that age where we're probably going to need a little more help.
That'll be awkward, but I'll do what I can.
I'm so proud of who they've become. And looking forward to them even going way beyond our expectations. I mean, we've always wanted a good life for them, success in their life, but didn't know how to encourage them in that way, really. And now we're more equipped, they're more equipped, and it's just awesome seeing the Lord at work in their lives. Just the truth, the understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom of just going forward and truly being successful in life. And we're very proud of y'all and proud of how you're raising your kids.
Well, thank you. I really didn't bring this up for y'all to praise me, but it is kind of nice. The real reason I brought it up, because I was posed a question. And that question was, how important is all this to me? And, when I think about it, it's pretty darn important. That's stating it mildly, and of course in the East Texas way, but it's important. It's extremely important. And then I was posed another question. How important is this for your children? Mm-hmm. And that, I can't even touch that with words. How important is it for my kids to succeed, to have all the right tools that they need to remain moral, not go insane into religion, not
to
be
struggle in life, trying to figure it out.
Right. To how important is it for them to have a correct view of God
Right.
and of this life. What's it for? What's the purpose of this life? I used to think our purpose was solely to please God. But I think it really pleases him when we're pleased. When we live this life to be happy, to relate, to enjoy, I think that pleases him. Not the going around saying, God, you're so good, you're so wonderful, and I praise you and I worship you. Those are the things that we used to think made him happy. It's us telling him how wonderful he is. But it's the opposite that makes him happy. When I walk home, or when I get home and I walk in the door and my kids are excited to see me, but they're just playing and having a great time and enjoying their childhood, that makes me happy. I would feel horrible if I walked in the door and my kids ran and bowed at my feet and said, "Oh, Dad, you're so precious. Let me kiss your feet." And
Is that enough? Have I made you happy?
I'd feel disgusting. I mean, that just that doesn't appeal to me at all. But that's the view that we've had of God. And another question that was posed to me is, how important is this for other people? And it's the same. I mean, it's the same. All these importance levels are just the same. How important is it for this message to go out? We have, I hate to call it a duty, because it's not like it's a job. It's not like it's hard work or something we're obligated to do, but in a sense we are. We have friends and family. And beyond that, the rest of the world that needs this. They need this message. They need this truth. They need this understanding that pleasing God is not what we thought that it was. Bowing down and worshiping him and, all the things that have been taught about him. If somebody is opposing what you're doing, then kill them, or whatever they did in the Old Testament, go to war, go to battle, get rid of them, stifle them. Just this terrible view that society has, Christian society has, of who God is today. It's extremely important, and I mentioned struggles earlier. I struggle with methods on how to do that. And, I say that, but I'm going to continue to struggle until I get it right, because I want to be a part of this process, because it's that important. I want this message to be heard. Like I said, I do feel a responsibility, but more than that, a desire for my friends, my family, my acquaintances, along with everybody else in the world, to get this message to them.
Yeah.
To get it out there, because it's that important. Because like we've said many, many times, this will change the world. Yeah. I don't have any doubts about that. I still at times doubt myself and how I'm going to participate in this and what my role is. Yeah. But regardless of my doubts or my insecurities about it, I want to be here. I want to be involved, and I want to be a part of this and participate in this.
Stephen, as far as, doubting my abilities or my methods of getting this out or whatever. But I was thinking about Hannah this morning, 3 years old. And what a blessing that was. And it would have blessed anybody that heard her. Just saying, "Oh, how he loves me." And how simple is that? And why, we have more understanding than she does.
I wonder sometimes because, we were standing up here singing, and I was a little unprepared this morning. I didn't have a bunch of songs picked out, so I asked, does anybody have any requests? And Hannah requested that she sing that song. It's not like she just stood up here and mimicked what I told her to do. "Oh, Hannah, this song. Come on, say these words." No, she wanted, that was her request. Right. Nobody prompted her. She just said, "Oh, I want to sing 'Oh, How He Loves Us." And she came up here and sang the words. Did it by herself the first few times until we all joined in. That's awesome.
It is.
That's
It
an
is.
experience that's worth sharing with everyone, because I want everyone to have those same type of experiences.
Well, I heard this morning talk of different ones, and this is where this thing's going, needs to go, will continue to go, and this is the importance of keeping New Covenant Group going on Ustream, all the different programs that we have. A couple of different people that have been kind of on and off friends of different members of the group, and but they keep coming back around, and they keep finding the same thing. They may go elsewhere and just get, after they've heard some of what we're about, it seems like they go elsewhere and they hear what's really being said. And just to give you an example, I can remember a time not too many years ago that I was looking forward to all the terrible things that were coming on this world, and kind of, I guess, hope that there was a rapture and that I would get to make it, and escape before all these, God started pouring out all this evil that he's going to pour out on the world. And I'm just putting it in the viewpoint that I see it now. That's not the way I would have said it exactly back then. But it's been such a turnaround that I keep using the example. I can't think of a better one, really. I used to be the glass half empty guy instead of the glass half full. I mean, anymore, I can't really tell how much bad is actually going on in the world because I'm looking at the good. I'm seeing how much better things are now and how much better they can be. And I'm convinced will be. And, we've struggled the better part of our lives, as I've already stated, seriously. I mean, we were serious about this. We didn't want to just be wrong and say, well, we believe this, we like it, we're staying here. Now, we've gone through quite a process to get to where we are. And there were times where we've drug our feet, we've fought, we've said, no, this is where I draw the line, and then that line would disappear. I mean, I don't know how many others go through all this. I think for some folks who haven't been indoctrinated or don't have near as much baggage, maybe, it's not so difficult. But when you go through some of the changes that we have, it can be kind of extreme at times. But like I said, this is the goal of our lives. And for the first time in our lives, we see something that really has the potential of something wonderful, not something dreadful. But what we used to be looking for was dreadful, to the point to where we were hoping we wouldn't be here for it. Now, that's not to say we don't know what the future holds. I don't know what, for example, this country is going to go through. I mean, with the politics and all of the wrong way things are being done, not only in this country, but around the world. But there's so many sparks of good within it all. And that's what I can see now. That's what I focus on. And that's what we can, what would be the word, we can address in people, in everyone we meet. And, we can encourage that in folks. And I want to bring up at this point what was dealt with this morning. I don't want to run out of time. I don't know where we are there.
We got about 5 minutes.
Gosh. Well, I just want to bring it up because it ties in so well. I thought it was wonderful. Dr. Jones has been dealing with John chapter 3 and verse 3. He's dealt with that a lot over the years. I mean, we've heard a lot of teaching on that particular conversation. I think it's an extremely important context. The topic that was being discussed between him and this man named Nicodemus. And just to kind of sum up the real crux, I think, of what was stated this morning, is that this idea that Jesus was portraying to Nicodemus, I mean, he was saying, you can't really get a perception, and you can't really get involved and participate in the way God does things without this particular thing taking place in your life. Now, we have the term born again, we have the term born from above, which to me is pretty vague. I mean, it doesn't really say what has happened or what took place to get a person to that point that he was referring to, and that is really perceiving the way God actually does things, who he is and the way he does things is a better way to put it, I don't guess. But it was brought up the way he does things. He does it from the perspective of love. And we're not talking about just our definition or someone else's definition, but something very specific that we've talked about much, and I know we'll talk much more about. It's the kind of love that demands that Jesus could not have been some kind of sacrifice to satisfy some kind of forgiveness that needed to take place from God's viewpoint, because this love keeps no record of wrongs. It's patient. It doesn't run out of patience. It's always kind. It's all these things. And I'm going to go out on a limb somewhat here. I don't really think I am, but that birth, that whatever it is that happens to a person, it's like a starting point of going that direction, of really getting a true perception of the way God's kingdom is. And that's what has just so transformed our lives. It's not to say that we don't have some good memories, and like you said, you've never looked at us as horrible parents. I'm thankful for that, because we never set out to be, and I never, in all the days that I used the stick, the rod, whatever you want to call it, it never gave me a thrill, and I can't say that I really enjoyed it, but I felt like I was doing the right thing. And it got results, but at what expense and what kind of results? Now, that's what I'm looking forward to now with watching my grandchildren. But there's something that initiates this in our lives, and we begin to perceive, and we really gain entrance into this operating, this functioning, this participating in actually the way God does things. And that's what's exciting. Way out of time, is that?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
It's 5:46. So I guess we should wrap it up. But I've enjoyed the conversation this week, and
yeah,
appreciate you two being here once again. They'll always come through for me. But for our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the show today. We want you guys to stay tuned. We've got some more wonderful shows coming up. Greg Bray, Bob Greaves, and then Dr. Jones at 8. So please stay tuned and come back and see us next week.
We'll be here.